It's about to be a wild ride. Hello, creeps! Andy here, and Happy New Year! Happy first video of 2024! These are the books that I got during Christmas time. I did purchase a few of them, but most were just gifts. Yeah, I'm very thankful that all I got for Christmas was books, and I'm very excited to show you what I got. I gotta say though, this is not my typical book haul. This is probably, I'm gonna say, the strangest book haul that I've ever done. Not to say that there aren't just typical horror books in here, because there are every once in a while, but I got some weird stuff, and this is why. Throughout the year, probably like most of you, I have a list on Amazon where if I find a book that I want to buy later, or that I want to read but I don't know if I'll enjoy, or a book that's maybe a little bit weird. I told you guys in the last video that I've been looking a little bit more into experimental literature and different types of literature and literature from other countries and all sorts of stuff, and I really want to expand on my reading in 2024. And so a lot of those I'll just add to my list on Amazon, and then I kind of forgot about, I'm not gonna lie. What ended up happening was anybody who asked for anything, my husband just sent them my Amazon list, which had all of my kind of strange books, or some of them were normal horror books too that were just like, oh, I'll buy these eventually kind of thing. But a lot of them were strange. Now, I don't remember adding all of these. And so a lot of the times, I don't know if you guys do this too, but after I enjoy a book, or I find a book interesting, or a book isn't exactly what I expected, a lot of the time I go and search that book either on Goodreads or on Amazon, and then I'll look at books that are related to it, or other people have bought or enjoyed, or you know, whatever, however it's set up on those specific websites. And then that's what has led to a lot of these. So some of them are authors that I love, and you'll see those sprinkled in here, but a lot of them are books that I'm like, oh, I read this one, this is cool, oh, here's this one, oh, and then this one, oh, what about this? And then I find this random book and add it to my list, you know? So I don't quite know what all of these are for, why I added all of them. I found them interesting at some time, so this is gonna be kind of a surprise to both of us. So let's just sort of get started here. I have quite a bit to go through. So let's just start with the one that I will absolutely not be able to pronounce. Hold on.
Les Chants de Mal d'Aurore
By
Contes de l'Autre
so that's what this book is. Obviously French, but I honestly, I don't even know what this is or why it was on my list. So let's kind of read the back together and see what this is. It says that this macabre but beautiful work, and then it pronounces it, which I cannot, has achieved a considerable reputation as one of the earliest and most extraordinary examples of surrealist writing. It is a long narrative prose poem which celebrates the principle of evil in an elaborate style with a passion akin to religious fanaticism. The French poet critic George has written of this book. He says it terrifies, stupors, strikes dumb. He could look squarely at that which others had merely given a passing glance. So that is this guy's quote. It says, little is known of the author, except that he was born in Uruguay in 1846 and died in Paris at the age of 24. When first published in 1868, this book went unnoticed, but in the 90s, the book was rediscovered and hailed as a work of genius by such eminent writers such as, and it lists a bunch of other French writers. Yeah, it is translated into English, and this is what I'm talking about. I just went into this weird realm of just kind of these odd books that I had never heard of before, or that sounded super interesting. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it terrifies, stupors, strikes dumb, and it's a macabre work. So there's gotta be some sort of, maybe not horror elements in it, but it should be maybe in the realm of something I would enjoy. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have read that. I also got Stoner by John Williams, and this back here is hard to read. It says, William Stoner is born at the end of the 19th century into a dirt poor Missouri family setting. Sent to the State University to study agronomy? The fuck is agronomy? Hold on, I gotta look what that is. This is gonna be me Googling stuff for 10 minutes.
Agronomy.
Okay. The science of soil management and crop production. Now we all know Learn something new every day. Sent to the State University to study agronomy, he instead falls in love with English literature and embraces a scholar's life, so different from the hand-scrabble existence he has known. And yet, as his years pass, Stoner encounters a succession of disappointments. Marriage into a proper family estranges him from his parents. His career is stymied. His wife and daughter turn coldly away from him. A transforming experience of new love ends under threat of scandal, driven even deeper into himself. No, wait, what? I lost my place, sorry. Wait, a new love. Driven even deeper within himself, Stoner rediscovers the stoic silence of his forebears and confronts an essential solitude. John Williams' luminous and deeply moving novel is a work of quiet perfection. William Stoner emerges from it not only as an archetypal American, but as an unlikely existential hero, standing like a figure in a painting of Edward Hopper. I always get 1 and 2 P's confused. In stark relief against an unforgiving world. So the reason I think that this one came up and that I found it interesting was because I bought this one, or I put this one on my list. And this is The Heavenly Table by Donald Ray Pollock. And if you guys have been here for any amount of time, you know that this is one of my favorite writers. He wrote the book The Devil All the Time, which is one of my favorite books ever written. It is fantastic. And that was turned into a movie. Maybe you've seen the movie. He also wrote another book, Knock 'em Stiff, which I have. And yeah, this came up and I said, oh my gosh, I don't have that Donald Ray Pollock book. Must add to my list. So, oh, and I think the reason I bought this was because I've never quite read books like this, kind of about that farmy, small town kind of life. And although these probably aren't going to be related because his work is pretty fucking dark, I still think that that's where I got that one. Anyways, we'll just go to this one next. It says, Cane, Cob, and Chimney Jewett are young Georgian sharecroppers held under the thumb of their God-fearing father, Pearl. When he dies unexpectedly, they set out on horseback for Canada, robbing and looting their way to wealth and infamy. But little goes to plan, and soon they're pursued by both the authorities and the stories emanating from the Trail of Destruction, making the Jewett gang one of the most fearsome trio of murdering bank robbers in the Midwest. The truth, though, is far more complex than legend, and the heaven they've imagined may in fact be worse than the hell they sought to escape. That sounds interesting. That last line there was beautiful. Anyways, yeah, excited to read this. And it says from the author of Knock 'em Stiff and Devil All the Time. So this, I'm assuming, was published after those 2 books, 2016. I don't know when The Devil All the Time was published. Should be up here, yeah. Oh no, my creepy sign. 2011, so it's after this one. Cool. We'll just fix that later. So that means that this will probably be a really amazing tale, because although I did like Knock 'em Stiff, there is something about The Devil All the Time, the perfection of that novel, the way it wraps all together, the way that he keeps track of the characters so that the reader isn't confused, even though there's tons of characters in that story. It is honestly a brilliant and complex novel, and so I'm very excited to read this one. I'm so excited. Okay, this is another one. Have no idea why I added it. This is Harry Cruz's The Gospel Singer. I have no idea what this is about, but we're about to find out together. It says, golden-haired with the voice of an angel and a reputation as a healer, the gospel singer appeared on the cover of Life and brought thousands to their knees in Carnegie Hall. But for all his fame, he is a man in mortal torment that drives him back to his wretched hometown of Enigma, Georgia. And by the time his Cadillac pulls into Enigma, he discovers an old friend is being held at Tenuous Bay for a lynch mob. As Harry Cruz's first novel unfolds, the gospel singer is forced to give way to his torment, and in doing so he reveals to the believers who have gathered at his feet just how little he is God's man and how much he has contributed to the corruption of each of them. Interesting. And this says Flannery O'Connor on steroids. And if you don't know who Flannery O'Connor is, that was a quote from someone else. She's another author. She's no longer alive. But when she did live, she wrote a lot of stories about, I mean, a lot of them did have religion in them, but some of them are just like awful. They're not horror stories, but they are about like murder and deception and all sorts of stuff. And I do believe she was quite a religious person, if I'm not mistaken. So this is interesting. Flannery O'Connor on steroids. And some of her stories are pretty difficult to read. In fact, I did do a video on short stories that are really disturbing. And so I will actually leave that linked down below. I did this video years ago, a long time ago, but they all hold true. I still think about all of those short stories. So I will do an updated version of that eventually, but in the meantime, if you want some really messed up short stories, I'll leave that linked down below. Okay, I'm just kind of going back and forth here. This is called The Conspiracy Against the Human Race by Thomas Ligotti. And the cover of this, I mean, look at that. Some of these covers are honestly just amazing and just stand out. And this just says, there's a quote at the top. It says, "Behind the scenes of life lurks something pernicious." Pernicious? Make sure I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry, I just like to look up words that I don't know so that when I come into contact with them again, I know the correct pronunciation and their meaning.
Pernicious.
Pernicious, okay, yeah.
Pernicious.
Causing harm, causing insidious harm or ruin. Cool, a new word. Anyways, pernicious. Okay, let me just read this quote again. "Behind the scenes of life lurks something pernicious that makes a nightmare of our world." And this, I do remember, it sounds quite nihilistic, and I have no idea what category all of these books fit into. That's why I said they're kind of weird and outside my realm, because they're not horror books, but I think a lot of them do have elements that I can perceive as horror, if that makes sense. But I think some of these are more experimental, and some of them may just be in the fiction section, and some of them I have no freaking idea where they fit. But this says Thomas Ligotti's supernatural horror fiction, oh, this one is horror, okay, cool, is ranked among the most distinguished and disquieting in the genre. His first nonfiction book is no less, okay, so this one is nonfiction. His first nonfiction book is no less estimable in exploring various domains to similarly disturbing effect. Drawing on philosophy, literature, neuroscience, and other fields of study, Ligotti takes the penetrating lens of the imagination and turns it to his audience, causing them to grapple with the brutal reality that they are living a meaningless nightmare. And anyone who believes otherwise is simply falling under the spell of an optimistic fallacy. This sounds so unbelievably interesting. Now, with a new preface by the author, The Conspiracy Against the Human Race may convince the reader that there is more of a measure of truth in the dismaying yet unexpectedly liberating negativity that is the hallmark of Ligotti's work. This just sounds right up my alley. I mean, just talk about nihilism, right? There's just a meaningless life. This sounds so fun. Oh, I'm so excited for this. So let's go to just a traditional horror book here. This is This Delicious Death by Kayla Cottenham. It's a girl eat girl world. Again, I'm not sure why I chose these specific horror books to put on the list. I really don't know. It says this summer is going to get gory. Already in for the ride. 2 years ago, a small percentage of the population underwent a transformation known as the hollowing. Those affected were only able to survive by consuming human flesh. The people who went without quickly became feral, turning on their friends and family. Luckily, scientists were able to create a synthetic version of human meat that would satisfy their hunger. As a result, humanity slowly began to return to normal. Cut to Zoe, Celeste, Valerie, and Jasmine, 4 hollow girls living in Southern California. I want to be a hollow girl. Well, no, I don't want to eat human flesh, but this just sounds so fun. As a last hurrah before graduation, they attend a music festival in the heart of the desert. They have a cooler filled with seltzer, vodka, and sin flesh, and are ready to party. Why have I never read this before? This sounds so fun. It says, but on the first night of the festival, Val goes feral and ends up killing and eating a boy in one of the bands. As the festival guests start dissipating around them, the girls soon discover someone is targeting people like them. If they can't figure out how to stop it, and soon, no one in the festival is going to get out alive. This sounds so fun because it sounds like it's going to be gory and brutal and just gross to be gross, but it also sounds like there might be something under the surface that you can kind of make meaning out of. So I am so excited for this. When was this published? How has this not been on my radar until now? There's just 2023. This came out last year. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna read this one next. I am so excited. Okay, so a lot of these were from my in-laws family. This one was actually from my best friend. So he and I have been doing reading, you know, like a book club kind of thing, where we each alternate months pick a book that we want to read. And so we've only been doing this for a few months. First he picked Annihilation, and then I picked Let the Right One In. I think those are the only 2 that we've done so far. And so this month he picked this one, Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi. And he gave this to me as a present, and he said, Merry Christmas, here's your reading book for the month. So I'm very excited. The quote on the top, a gothic, gory Lord of the Flies. Horror readers will be hooked. That sounds fantastic. It says St. Vincent's Orphanage for Boys, early 20th centuries in a remote village in Pennsylvania. Here, under the watchful eye of several priests, 32 boys work, learn, and worship. Peter Barlow, orphaned as a child by a gruesome murder, has made a new life here. He approaches adulthood. He has friends, a future, a family. Then, late one stormy night, a group of men arrive at the door, one of whom is badly wounded. Occult symbols carved into his flesh. I'm just in book heaven right now. All of these sound great. His death releases an ancient evil that spreads like sickness, infecting St. Vincent and the children within. Soon the boys begin acting differently, forming groups, taking sides. Others turn up dead. Now Peter and those dear to him must choose sides of their own, each of them knowing their lives and perhaps their eternal souls are at risk. This sounds great. It's snowy on the cover. It is perfect for January. This one I will be reading this month too. I'm just so happy. Okay, the next book we have here, I have no idea what this is. It's called The Atrocity Exhibition by J.D. Ballard. It's a giant book. It is very strange because there are photos of anatomy within it. So you have, like, what the frick is this? This is an aneurysm of the left vertebral artery, but it's also surrounded by a freeway. So this is gonna be weird. I already know it, and I'm already excited for it, and I have actually no idea what this is, how it got added to my list. I have no recollection of this. I don't even think I could show you that picture. So the back doesn't tell you anything. All it says was it was originally printed in 1970. Nelson Doubleday saw a copy and was horrified. He ordered the entire press run shredded. It says 2 years later, Grove Press bought a small hardback printing retitled Love and Napalm, Export USA. Now research brings out an illustrated large format edition of the notorious work, augmented with 4 recently written stories, plus extensive annotations written by the author, never before published, which clarify and illuminate this exhilarating prophetic masterpiece. But it doesn't say anything. It just says at the bottom, the author was born in Shanghai in 1930. James Graham Ballard spent 15 years of his life in China. He was interned in a Japanese camp during World War II, and he was repatriated to England at the age of 16. And then it just goes kind of on to explain other things, but not the work itself. So I'm going to go on Goodreads and see if we can get a little bit of a description in here. It says, easily one of the 20th century's most visionary writers, J.G. Ballard lived far ahead of his time, called his prophetic masterpiece by many. The Atrocity Exposition practically lies outside of any literary tradition. Part science fiction, part eerie historical fiction, part pornography. Its characters adhere to no rules of linearity or stability. This reissued edition features an introduction by William S. Burroughs, which is a writer from the Beat era, extensive text commentary by Ballard, and 4 additional stories. Of specific interest are the illustrations by underground cartoonist and professional medical illustrator Phoebe Glockner. Her ultra-realistic images of eroticism and destruction add an important dimension to Ballard's text. What is this? I don't know, but we're gonna find out together. I think I will do an entire video where I read more of this kind of experimental literature, maybe reading vlog style or something, and we can kind of deep dive into these and yeah, see what the heck is going on, because these sound so interesting. So here we have another book by John Williams. I believe, did we already get? Yeah. So Stoner was by John Williams as well. I didn't know I had 2 of his, but this is called Butcher's Crossing, and now that I'm thinking about it, this might have been the book that I associated with the Heavenly Table. And this back just says, it is the 1870s and Will Andrews, fired up by Emerson to seek an original relation to nature, so one of the transcendentalists, drops out of Harvard and heads west. He washes up on Butcher's Crossing, a small Kansas town on the outskirts of nowhere. Butcher's Crossing is full of restless men looking for ways to make money and ways to waste it. Before long, Andrew strikes up a friendship with one of them, a man who regales Andrews Andrews with tales of immense herds of buffalo ready for the taking, hidden away in a beautiful valley in Colorado Rockies. He convinces Andrew to join him on an expedition to track the animals down. The journey is grueling, but at the end is a place of paradisal richness. Paradisal? Is that a word? Am I saying that correctly? Once there, however, the three men abandon themselves to an orgy of slaughter, so caught up in killing buffalo that they lose all sense of time. Winter soon overtakes them. They're snowed in. Next spring, half insane with cabin fever, cold, and hunger, they stagger back to Butcher's Crossing to find the world as irremediably changed as they have been. So yeah, this sounds again like one where you can dig under the surface and find a little bit more than a story about killing buffalo. So excited for that. Another interesting one. This is called Anti-Societies by Michael Sisko. This just says it's a collection of 10 stories about isolation, what it does to people and what isolated people do to each other and themselves. An ominously quiet town, a haunting young adult work from the turn of the century, two starving captives frozen in agony, a young boy from a doting family, a man in a cheap Halloween mask, a succession of portraits of people trapped in their own identities, some of whom insist on their own ideas because they would have nothing at all without them. People for whom being seen by another is terrifying, and like all societies of portraits, Anti-Societies is also a collection of speculative mirrors. I'm just so excited. I can't even contain myself. I also added to my list the new Chuck Palahniuk book. This was published in 2023. Yes, and this is called Not Forever, But For Now by Chuck Palahniuk. I have been a huge Palahniuk fan for many, many years. He was like my absolute obsession in high school. Let's take a little peek under the cover here. Ooh, a white one, all white with red. That's beautiful. Look at that. Nice. Okay, sorry. I haven't loved his most recent works because like I said in high school, ooh, and the inner part of this has a weird texture as well. This is an interesting one. I used to buy every book that came out from him. I had an obsession with his work. The past few books that I've read, and they haven't even been his most recent, haven't been my favorite. And so this one was one that I wanted to kind of revisit him and see how I felt about this book specifically, because I'm a huge fan of his work. I really am. I just haven't connected with his most recent stories. So let's see what this one is, because I don't even know. You know, he has works that fall into more like the horror section, like Haunted, and then he has works that are more fiction, like Fight Club. So I'm interested to see kind of where this one lies. Meet Otto and Cecil, two brothers growing up privileged in the Welsh countryside. They enjoy watching nature shows, playing with their pet pony, impersonating their grandfather, and killing the Hope. Okay, I think this might be a little bit of a horror. Murder is a family business after all. Downton Abbey, this is not. However, it's not so easy to continue the family legacy with the constant stream of threats and distractions seemingly leaping from the hedgerow. First, there is the matter of the veritable cavalcade of escaped convicts who keep showing up at their front door. Don't you just hate it when escaped convicts keep showing up at your front door? Not to mention the debaucherous new tutor who has a penchant for speaking in Greek and dismembering sex dolls. Okay, I feel like this is old Palahniuk coming back to me. I'm very excited for this so far. Okay, then there's Mummy's burgeoning opiate addiction, and who knows where Daddy is? He's just vanished one day after he and Mommy took a walk in the so-called ghost forest. With Grandfather putting pressure on Otto to step in, it becomes clear that this will end in one of two ways. A nuclear apocalypse, or just another day among the creeping thistle and tree peonies. And in the novel written by Chuck Palahniuk, either is equally possible. I'm gonna have to read this soon. Dang it, Mr. Palahniuk, why you gotta do this to me? I have so many winter books and I keep finding books. I'm like, I'm gonna read this next. I'm gonna read this next. And soon it's not gonna be winter and I'm gonna finally get to be reading my snowy books. But that's okay. I mean, I'm not opposed to a Palahniuk book. But anyways, this one is Kurt Vonnegut's Pity the Reader on writing with style. And so I think that this is kind of like, you know, Stephen King's book on writing. I think that this is equivalent to that. I really liked the inside of it. It is actually a newspaper, How to Write with Style, that discusses writing with Kurt Vonnegut, and I thought that that was kind of a cool thing to include in the front cover. It's also, oh my gosh, this might be one of my favorite hardcovers. Brown, if you guys didn't know, brown is one of my favorite colors, and orange is another one. So this book is just so beautiful to me. And then some silver writing. So wow, I love that one. And let's just read real quickly what it says in the cover here. It says, Kurt Vonnegut used to like to say, practicing an art form in a way is a way to grow your soul. He would screw up his lips into a prune face right after he said this because of how important he believed this idea to be. Pity the Reader is the very embodiment of that idea, a book about writing and life and why the two go together. It includes rare photos. Yeah, that's okay. We don't have to read the whole thing. But yeah, I think that this is more like his book on writing, which you guys know I'm really trying to get back into my writing and having it be a consistent thing in my life. So very excited to read that. Now these are the few that I have purchased. Honestly, I just got a little bit of cash and so I spent it on books. Surprise, surprise, isn't anyone surprised? And the first one we have here is 7 Layer Slayer by Addison Moore. You guys know I love these silly cozy mysteries. They're the cutest things ever. I'm not going to read the back because I don't want to know what happened, and the last time I did, it ruined who got murdered, which really isn't that big of a deal because it happens in like the first chapter of the book. But a cozy little winter mystery, number I believe 5 in the series, and I just started reading them this year, but they're so cute. The next one I have here is If on a Winter's Night a Traveler, but I can't see the name. I can't see who it is. Oh, okay. Calvino, it says. Books by Italo Calvino. Hold on, let me make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Italo Calvino.
Italo Calvino. So this guy sounded really, really interesting, and this is kind of, I think, a book that just more plays with the literary format. And yeah, it came up in something I was looking at, and it just sounds really awesome. It says, if on a winter's night a traveler turns out not to be one novel, but 10, each with a different plot, style, ambiance, and writer, and each interrupted at the moment of suspense. Together they form a labyrinth of literatures, known and unknown, alive and extinct, through which two readers, a male and a female, pursue the storyline that intrigue them and one another. So I have no idea what this just sounds like. Such an interesting kind of exploration of literature in a way that maybe I have never seen before. Again, I'm so excited. I just can't express to you how excited I am about all of these books. I got this one here by Octave Mirbeau.
Octave Mirbeau.
Okay, a little off, but it says Oscar Wilde recommended Torture Garden to Frank Harris, describing it as revolting, a sort of gray adder. Torture Garden, okay, but what is it? Oh, it doesn't say. It doesn't say what this is. Cool, have no idea. Let's look this up on Goodreads because those are just kind of quotes on the back. Oh, this is just a quote too. It just says, a century after its publication, this book is still capable of shocking. The opening satire is probably meaningful only to scholars of French political history, but the subsequent journey into the Far East accentuates conceptions between love and death, sex and depravity, fastidiousness and pleasure, and the petty parochial corruptions of the narrator are put into context by the immersion into the Sadian world of the Torture Garden. What does that mean? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out with you. So that's what I mean. Just the most random books you could find. They're all here. And I really, really do hope that you guys will come with me in this next year to kind of explore literature on a deeper level than I have before. I'm really, really, honestly so excited to dive into some of these books and just to find more bizarre text. So if you guys have any suggestions of other books down below, I'm gonna try not to go as book crazy as I did this year because I have so many books to read. But I think this kind of odd literature is going to compel me a lot in the new year and to dive even further into different types of genres. So leave any suggestions down below. The last book I have here is kind of just your traditional horror novel. This is James Herbert's The Fog. And this one was actually mentioned in, what book was that? I think it was Let the Right One In. I just looked it up and it said, well, I'll read the back to you. It says, it has come to destroy. It begins with a crack that rips the earth apart. Peaceful village, life shattered. But the disaster is just the beginning. Out of the bottomless pits creeps a malevolent fog. Spreading through the air, it leaves a deadly, horrifying trail, destined to devastate the lives of all those it encounters. So, it was mentioned in the other book. I have been introduced to this author. I think I have one or two of his books on ebooks, but it mentioned The Fog specifically, and I looked into what it was, and I was like, that sounds so fun. So I had to purchase that one in book form, in the flesh. So that is my book haul. I know, a crazy amount of books, and the year has just started. So I'm so excited to make videos this year. Thank you guys so much for being with me and just watching me talk about the thing that I am most passionate about on this planet. I just love books so much, and I love range in them, and I'm really excited to dive into these. I'm also excited to read just, you know, your traditional horror books. So thank you so much for watching. Sorry, I just talked so much that my phone died. I mean, my camera died. But thank you so much for sticking around, and I will see you soon with another horror video. Bye, guys.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.